Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another Bearded Brown show here. Got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, the 53-man roster has been filled for the first time this year.
Once.
We are still considered the underdogs, and I don't think that's going to happen with what happened with. We got our line coming back. We got a lot of injury stuff to still conversate about. The preseason game. Chad and Angel, what is up, gentlemen?
What is up? We made it. We successfully did our first
You're
ever.
so close.
Yeah, we're there. We're there. We got a week off next week, not split down, and then
The next football will be real life football.
real life.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man! You made it.
So I usually ask you guys how your weekend went, but nobody cares. We got a lot to get to today, so no, I'm kidding.
I have a question. Why can't football players wear glasses on the field? Why can't football players wear glasses on the field?
Because they have visors.
No, because it's a contact sport. Yeah, that's contact. That's how we're going to start it off, folks. Take it.
Well, there goes all 5 listeners that were tuned in.
That was 3.
Dropped out.
No.
Hey, man. Hey,
Chad,
we made it. That's the way to celebrate. Let's go into what we actually need to talk about.
So today's show is brought to you all by the Doug White Allstate Insurance Agency in Olmsted Falls. Go and check them out. If you need anything insured, check them out. And CB Excavating. If you guys need anything at all, call Chris. He will take care of you. All your excavating needs done by Chris.
Yes.
So today we found out a little prematurely that the 53-man roster for the first time this year has been settled. What's your guys' take on that so far? Anything that you want to pop out right away?
Well, we're sticking with Stefanski's definition of the initial 53-man roster because he got some questions about it in his press conference. I'm sure a lot of the people watching this have already seen that. But for those who haven't, he was obviously asked about keeping 4 quarterbacks, only keeping 2 running backs. And we'll get to the exact roster and positions later. But he was basically asked about, some of these unique, uncharacteristic moves. And he basically said, same thing he said last year. This is just the initial 53. Things will change in the next few days slightly, and we'll finalize our 53 before the season. And that's pretty much what this is that initial 53.
Yeah, I think if there's anything that's shocking would be the 4 quarterbacks that Chad just talked about. There's probably other things we will talk about that kind of threw me off a little bit, but we'll get to there when we get there. But initially, like right away when I saw it, I'm like, 4 quarterbacks, holy crap, But that was about it.
I think it's just going to be trade value is all at the end.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure we all think that. Well, most of us think that, but it's all TBD. We will find that out. We posted a lot of stuff on social media today, and there was tons of questions pouring in on everything. Why did we get rid of Deontay Foreman? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? That's why you tune into the show. Come here, watch it. We'll tell you about it. That's how this works.
Yes.
I'm not upset with the whole roster breakdown as of right now. Obviously, we got a couple guys. Our offensive line is back, which is huge. That's a huge part. I'm sorry for smacking my mic there. I was so excited. You have Nick Chubb on a PUP list. I'm sorry, I might be going out of order here, but there's plenty of things that we heard that were good news this week. And it makes us all be able to sit back and relax a little bit, except we got to wait a couple of weeks for some things to happen. We still are unknown for other things, if that makes sense. And it's the Cleveland Browns, folks. We dealt with less. So
yes,
we made things happen, and we're going to do it again.
Let's get into it. I'm anxious. I'm chomping at the bit to get to this.
Snap.
Yes. Go ahead, Chad. You started off there, buddy.
Yeah, am I sharing this this roster breakdown?
Yeah, let's do the roster breakdown that I believe is definitely pinned on our X page, and I believe it's on our Facebook page.
It is.
Yeah, we did roster breakdown of what we thought would happen, and I'm surprised how similar it kind of looks a little bit.
Yeah. How's this come up?
I see it. Good.
You are
I'll
good.
let you-
Okay. All right. And so, so how we wanted to kind of go through this was essentially going through the roster, quickly position group by position group, and kind of just highlighting who made the initial 53, and then how did we do on our initial predictions, and then take a few minutes to talk about things that either didn't pan out as we had expected the whole time, or that kind of stand out and that people have been talking about or asking about, throughout the last, it's only been 8 hours since they started releasing this news. So one of you guys have the actual 53-man roster that we can compare to this list that we have up?
I could
I-
pull that up. But you want to go offense or defense first?
Let's go offense first.
Yeah, I got
Offense
it up.
first. There's our offense. Can you see that, Angel?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. I don't think Chad can see it, but it's there.
I can't. It doesn't matter. I've seen it before. I just thought, just give me some reads of what do we got. Let's start with quarterback, obviously.
Deshaun Watson, Tyler Huntley,
All of
DTR,
them.
and Jameis Winston. All of them.
All
Yes.
of them.
All of them. So of course we did not predict that. Our prediction was we thought they would keep two. We thought they would keep two quarterbacks that were like starter, second quarterback. The interesting thing that came out today was they were supposed to be able to keep a third quarterback on the practice squad that you could bring up whenever you wanted as your emergency quarterback on game day. And the NFLPA vetoed that rule, surprisingly, today as people are cutting their rosters, which I'm sure a lot of GMs had to immediately shuffle a little bit
Yeah.
to decide, like, oh, maybe we do need to keep three quarterbacks then, because we can't just keep pulling up our practice squad quarterback every week. So with that in mind, we had talked about it's going to be two quarterbacks if they can have one on the practice squad, or three total. And that's the biggest surprise, I think, to everybody, is they kept all four. I don't believe they're going to. We had Deshaun, Jameis, and then we had DTR and Huntley going back and forth. I thought the most likely one I put on the bubble here in first place was DTR, although both of you guys liked Huntley this preseason a little bit better. I
thought
think
you did
on
as
the
well.
roster. I just was more like 50-50. Like I picked they would keep DTR, but I guess I was just pushing back on the notion that everybody thinks there's like
An age
DTR
gap.
is like a must keep and that Huntley was needed to be traded. I was more in the line of like, if you ended up getting a better deal for DTR, I'm totally fine keeping Huntley. I seriously think they're like 55-45, so close right now. But yeah, that's pretty much how it broke down. But that is the big crazy twist there. Do you guys think they're keeping four quarterbacks, or are you guys with me that they're keeping three and they started with four because they've got some trade interest brewing and they just want to be able to complete that trade first?
I think there's trade value to be dealt with, and I'm going to say, you got what trade deadline ends in week 10, so you got a team's going to lose a quarterback. Somebody's going to need a quarterback. We have four of them.
Oh, so you think they're keeping all four? I don't think they're going into the season with four. I was saying, like, I think they're just holding on to one before the season starts in case they can get a trade. So you think they might hold all four into the season?
Possibly.
Okay.
It could change, but you never know.
I didn't. I would bet.
Yeah.
I would bet dollars over dollars that they do not start week one with four quarterbacks on the roster. That would shock me.
Yeah, I would be shocked too. I think maybe the news breaking with them can only holding three, that the switching of the NFLPA rule there, vetoing it, made them want to hold four because it increases one of their values. Because if somebody wants a quarterback, now, they have Huntley. I personally think they want to keep DTR. I don't think they want to get rid of him, though that was a rumor that was said last week. I think
Yeah.
Huntley. I don't see him getting rid of Winston. I think it's going to be Huntley. I'll be shocked unless they get a some offer that knocks their socks off for Winston. I'll be crazy shocked that they trade him. But I think them
Okay.
holding on to those quarterbacks adds trade value later when someone wants a quarterback soon, hopefully within the next week or two, is what I'm thinking.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Kenny,
And I'm more with that. I'm thinking in the next, like, they're just holding on prior to the season starting, where they could maybe trade one off and then bring somebody else onto the active roster or something like that. All right.
Kenny
else?
Miller
What-
on
what do we got
Foreman. We'll be back on a 53. We'll get back on that soon. We'll touch base with that soon. Sam says trade value before the season starts. I'm with Chad on that one.
Yep.
All right. So we're still on offense. We're going to bring up. We're going to start with wide receivers. David Bell, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, Jamari Thrash,
Yeah.
Cedric Tillman.
6 for 6.
Nice.
There's a first time for everything. Lucky guy.
Yeah, I think
I will say for people looking up at this who have already seen the roster, you'll see we didn't pick all 53 because I didn't want to there's no value to me about saying like I guessed all 53. But whenever I thought that like a position group was a lock, I just put them all over. The position battles, like I didn't want to say like it will definitely be Siaki Ika or Mo Hurst or whoever. I was happy you're saying these are the guys who are a lock. Here's the two guys battling for the last position. So that's kind of how we listed it. In this one, though, we were chalk. All of us agreed like these 6 will make it. And I think you guys had some questions on David Bell, but I just kind of thought it just seems like he's done just enough that unlike guys in the past, like Anthony Schwartz, who you could cut bait after 3 seasons because you just saw nothing.
Yeah.
You just saw the same mistakes, no progress. David Bell, I think, fits their mold of like when they need to get him out there, he can be a useful guy for them.
Third
I
down.
did disconnect your screen there just because it was taking up the whole screen, I believe, and everybody's
was?
seen it.
Oh,
Yeah, I
So we can
couldn't.
still
I
touch-
couldn't see it. It was only in one spot for me, but that's fine. Yeah, we can cut it.
that's all gravy. I'm prettier anyways.
But yeah, so that was chalk. I think the big question everybody had was there was all this stuff going around in the last like 24 hours of like Woods or Thrash, and we even had a poll up there like that. I didn't think there was any chance in hell they were dropping Thrash his first season
You actually called
on
it
this
though.
roster.
I think you
as a
said I think it was
draft pick.
90 to 9%.
Yeah. It was that.
Yeah,
high.
I think I told you 9 out of 10 people were taking Thrash or something like
Yeah.
that. But it's how it played out. I thought the poll would be more variable if you put Woods or Bell up there because a lot of Browns fans do not care for Bell, and I think
they
more of
love
them are
Woods.
excited about Woods.
Yeah,
Here's
they are.
for me the big difference is Woods is a less known commodity, and I do think they're going to try to hold him on the practice squad. And I think people kind of have seen David Bell in the field, and if he gets cut, a team that only has 4 or 5 lock receivers would scoop him onto their active roster. So for anybody that doesn't know, if you drop somebody on waivers, the team that picks them up has to put them on their 53. They can't just take one of your guys and put them on their practice squad. They have to make the 53 first. So that means if you have 6 receivers of your own, you're going to be pretty unlikely to grab Woods, put him on your active roster, and cut somebody that made your roster who's been with you all camp. Unless, I mean, I don't think Woods blew anybody away enough to say like, oh my gosh, he's better than our active guys. Maybe, but I think the Browns thought we have a good chance of sliding him on the practice squad. He showed so much more this year than he's been able to show in the past. He's been so injured. So I am kind of excited if they do get to keep him. He's one of the maybe 3 or 4 guys I'm actually like crossing my fingers make this practice squad. Most of the other guys I won't be able to care less. But yeah, so that was our receiver list. We hit that one.
With that being said, we're going to move on to Kenny Miller's comment. Foreman will be back on a 53-man roster soon. And right now, as of right now,
the Cleveland Browns select
Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong. I'm not against that. I'm really not. I like the fact that Foreman was going to be there. I thought he was going to be a part of this roster as well. Clearly, he is not as of right now.
Yeah.
It's something that you got to take. It's something you have to
Who was
take
it,
into
Kenny?
consideration. It's what's that?
Was that Kenny on there? That was
Yeah,
commenting?
Kenny Miller on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with Kenny though. I do think he is the exact type of person I would expect them to cut with some kind of a verbal agreement that they're going to bring him back, similarly to what they did with Michael Dunn and Mo Hurst in past seasons, where they're veterans. They don't go through the waiver process. So Deontay Foreman's a tenured veteran. He no longer goes onto waivers. So when you drop a younger player and he goes on waivers, teams can take the rights to him. If you drop a veteran player who's been in the league for 4 years or more, they don't go into waivers, which means they pick where they go after the waiver wire passes. And so those are the types of guys you can make a verbal with and say, hey, we're going to cut you. You're not going to be picked up on waivers, but like we want you to sign back with us on Wednesday after we put so-and-so on IR or after we, so, and that's exactly what I'm expecting. I would be shocked if in the next couple days he's not right back on the roster. I'm not saying it's a definite, but it would shock me if he wasn't back.
Angel, what do you think of the running backs?
Before we go to that, I do want to express my opinion on David Bell real quick, if I may. I think I would like to ring my bell for David Bell. See what I did there? I think he has been I forgot the term, but he has not been fortunate enough because he has not had enough reps, and we've had quarterback issues here. And I do think when he has opportunities, he has shown up on third down, and I think that's why they had value, and that's why they kept him. The running back situation is the running back situation. We know who our running back is. It's Nick Chubb. The other guys don't matter. Once Nick Chubb comes back, Nick Chubb will be number one, and then the rest will fall in line. So Ford and Strong, keep the line, keep the blocking, keep Watson safe, run the ball, give us 4 or 5 yards a game until Nick Chubb comes back, and then we're done with you. Not done with you, but done with you.
Angel just dropped the mic.
Yeah. And I do think, everybody should question that running back room. That's why it seems so obvious they're going to bring Foreman back, because you can't go into a season with Jeff Ford and Pierre Strong, both who have had, some small injury history. But since you brought up the topic of Nick Chubb, he is remaining on the PUP list. I think that's notable. I think all of us have been saying that this entire time. He's not going to start game one. He's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season. That's just not even realistic for all of like the Cleveland over-hopeful fans who are like, but he's Nick Chubb. He's superhuman. It's like he's a harder worker than most people, and he's just incredibly strong, but his joints are still joints, and they still need to heal. And coming back less than a year from that initial injury after he has already had another injury in that knee was just not realistic. And my final thought on Nick Chubb would be from like a more of a medical, but also a technical standpoint. For everybody I've already seen, like, I hope this team is, in really good shape when Nick comes back week 5. The PUP list means you cannot play for 4 weeks. What it doesn't mean is that you are automatically back for week 5.
Yeah, exactly.
It means he's not eligible for the first 4 games, but that doesn't mean he'll definitely be back week 5. He might miss week 5, week 6, who knows, week 7.
They're saying about week 7.
Yeah, we said all along, like maybe after the bye week, or I think our initial thought was like he should be back by November. Yeah. If he comes back earlier than that, hooray. If he comes back later than that, that's a bummer for the season, but at least he's back. But I would expect probably more than the first 4 weeks, just for everybody out there who's thinking it's an automatic.
All right. We're going to move on to tight ends. We got obviously number 1, David Njoku and Jordan Akins, which I did not think was going to happen. I thought we were going to have maybe 3 tight ends. I think Barry Shuck from
I think you were right to think that. I think when I looked back at the past rosters for Andrew Berry, I think they did keep 3 tight ends every season in the past. I think what might be the case this year is they've got 1 or 2 guys who could probably go onto the practice squad who they can bring up if they need to, in Zaire Payton Mitchell, or is it Mitchell Payton or Payton Mitchell? I always mess that up.
Who cares?
Mitchell Payton, I believe.
Is it Mitchell Payton?
Yeah.
I always confuse him, but he played really well in the preseason. We talked about and wrote about how much we liked trading Welch as like a developmental receiving threat. I just think neither of those are on anybody's radar enough that you can get them on the practice squad, bring them up if you need to. Plus, they kept 4 quarterbacks, so they're one spot shorter than they're supposed to be. And then lastly, Dorsey's offense does not feature 2 tight ends nearly as much as the old Stefanski offense. So if they're kind of hybridizing and like mooshing those together to make a new Browns offense, it would not be shocking if they don't play 2 tight ends as much and they play more often 3 wide receivers, as they've made it very clear multiple times. This is going to be a pass first offense this year. So I was surprised. I only put 2 in the final draft, but I put that I was expecting
I could
3.
pull it up real quick.
And I had Zaire Payton Mitchell over Trayvon Welch.
And you have David Njoku, Jordan Akins, and Zaire Payton Mitchell.
Yep.
2
makes sense because of that extra quarterback spot. Maybe if they didn't need an extra quarterback, they would have carried that third just in case. But like Chad said, I mean, maybe this is the new way of running things with that new offense.
Mm-hmm. And last year we talked about only like a handful, only like 10 or less teams kept that third quarterback on their roster, the emergency quarterback. But so it wouldn't be shocking a lot of teams keep 2. I think you guys are onto something with the fact that they changed that rule, leading to maybe some teams will roster 3 now. But anyway, either way, even if they get down to 3, tight end could be one of those spots where they sneak somebody else in. But I just don't think one guy stood out quite high enough yet. But
I agree. Let's move on to the offensive line. That's what everybody has been obviously anticipating this year during the offseason.
Who do we got?
We have Joe Bitonio, Jack Conklin, Javion Cohen, Nick Harris, James Hudson III, DeJuan Jones, Ethan Posick, Wyatt Teller, Jedrick Wills, and Zach Zinter.
Okay, so we did miss one on this one. Did James Hudson not make the final?
No, he did.
Final roster. He did.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's straight from the Cleveland
difference
Browns.
was we only predicted there would be 9, and it looks like, and we had Michael Dunn over Javion Cohen. Now I do realize they put Michael Dunn on a non-football injury list, so that counted him out. There's no way he was going to make the team on that list. They could bring him back later if they wanted. So I had Javion Cohen losing the bubble battle. And I also didn't think they would keep 10 linemen this year. And I think only because I thought Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, very good. Zach Zinter is a very strong backup. And James Hudson, although he's a backup tackle, has slid into guard when needed. So that's why I only had us keeping 9 linemen in order to keep more players in other spots. So that's the first one that we missed. I had Javion Cohen as a likely practice squad guy, and them not keeping him on the active. So
James
they got
Frank
me.
says Kareem Hunt's coming back. Doubtful. More than likely not going to happen. I'll
Guy.
promise you that.
They'll bring
James.
it up though.
And then
They'll bring it up, and at
our
least they know
O-line.
they can. I mean, nobody else has picked him up. So Browns fans, I
Come
know
on, man.
we
Yeah.
love him the most because we're most familiar to him. But there's a reason 31 other teams never even brought him into camp. They just don't see the explosiveness anymore.
Why do we do this to ourselves, guys? Why do we fall in love with players and think they're always going to be that one player we imagine them to be?
I
Like
don't know.
he's
It makes
he
it
was
worse that
he's a goal line back. Like he did what he did last year was good. He was a goal line back. He got those touchdowns. That's great. But you need to get younger, man. You can't.
What makes it worse is he's a Cleveland native, and so Clevelanders absolutely love Cleveland guys.
we all loved him. But listen, we could bring Joe Flacco back too, the guy that threw 2 interceptions a game and somehow got us to the playoffs because everybody loved that guy. And
I just
a
think
rivalry
you're so
team.
much more likely to bring Deontay Foreman back, who's been practicing in this offense all offseason and is younger and has less miles on his tires. So he's actually about the same age, but he's just less tread on the tires and he's more explosive at this point. That seems so much more sensible to me than bringing back Hunt out of nowhere into a new offense he hasn't been working with. So I don't know. How you guys on the line? I'm given the guys that have come off PUP, and we can talk about that or swing back to it later, but I'm actually pretty happy with the line. I just didn't know that Cohen had earned a spot on the team, but that's fine for me. He's a rookie with them. I just thought he was an automatic on the practice squad regardless, but they're keeping him active.
I'm gonna go first. So Conklin said today he would have no problem going back to left tackle. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's left side, his blind side, needs to be covered. You have to do that. You have to cover that man. There's no way. Cody Brown says Deshaun Watson's a bum.
Yeah, sure.
Well, he's still your quarterback, Cody.
Look, Michael.
Yes,
Do
come
not
on.
interrupt your own take for a trash comment.
But
like
listen, here we
Deshaun
go.
Watson.
We're gonna go right back into it.
Get out of here.
The guy needs to be. There has to be good blocking on the left side. It's his blind side. He's going to be facing this way. You got a guy coming behind you. You're not going to be able to see it. He's going to get hit hard in the shoulder. That's it. Jack Conklin, not that probably many of you know, played left tackle in college. Yes, it was 10 years ago, but it's like riding a bicycle, right?
Hopefully. I've never done it
Maybe
before.
more like riding a unicycle.
I can
a
still ride a
bicycle, but-
unicycle. I can jump on one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you can jump on one, but can you?
in
Yeah,
Conklin's
speaking,
interview today, Stop
right
it,
on
Angel.
time.
In Conklin's interview today, he even said he has no problem playing whatever position they want him to play. He talked about how being on an offensive line, it is hard for injuries to not happen because you guys got guys falling on your ankles and your knees.
yeah.
He talked about that, and I'm glad that he brought it up because now people get maybe more of an understanding of what it's like to be an offensive lineman, where you think you're just pushing guys, but no, that's not what happens. People fall on you, man. It's gonna happen. We watched it happen last year and this year. So yeah, let's move along. You got anything, guys? Anything?
I'm still confused why they like Hudson to keep him on the roster, but other than that, we can move on.
I would just say this. I don't know that they like him that much as they don't have a better option.
Maybe.
Like he stunk, but last year and the year before, but they drafted him, which gives him just a little bit more of an oomph than somebody else. But like guys don't drop good tackles. You have a left tackle, you have a right tackle, and then you either have an incredible backup swing tackle and a second one, or you have a backup left tackle and a backup right tackle. Your quarterbacks are too valuable for you to give up any of those four to another team. So for everybody out there who was like saying this whole offseason, we got to trade for a tackle. And we kept saying, you have three tackles making over $10 million. You can't really trade for a good one, and nobody's going to give you one of their backups.
Trent Williams is available from San Francisco. Trent Williams.
No.
You can pay him $20 million.
So
Yeah, you can give up
fine.
You can give up a first and pay him $20 million, and then
You're good.
Anyways, that's my whole point with like Hudson. I just also think he's played guard, and if you need him to swing into guard, he can. But he knows the system, and he can play this better than a guy that hasn't been in the whole camp. Also, threw out the caveat, he thinks the tackles are in much better shape than the safeties because they have to constantly battle every rep instead of being able to kind of jog some out and not have to go when the ball doesn't come towards you.
Good point.
So he thought the tackles might take a little longer. So expect a rough patch for whichever one of them starts the season because they only have 2 weeks to get ready and they're probably going to need more.
All right. Paul says he's glad they kept David Bell. If the guy can catch a ball, I'm fine. That's all. You can be fast as hell in the sleep, but you got to catch the ball.
He's got hands. Yeah, he's got hands.
Yeah, he can catch. And again, he's the type of receiver you don't draft because you're like, he has some amazing trait. He's just a steady, dependable guy who in the past, when they've had to throw in there, he catches the balls thrown to him. He knows how to get in the end zone. He's good enough to get open. He's never going to be your wide receiver, probably 1, 2, or 3. I can never say never, but like it just doesn't. He doesn't show that. But he can hang around as your 4, 5, or 6 for another half a decade if he keeps up what he's doing and continues to progress.
If you don't like David Bell, I encourage you to watch the Houston Texans playoff game, and you would have it won't make you love him, but it will make you kind of like, well, maybe him.
Mm-hmm. you have to think that ending the season, even in a bad game like the Texans game, you have to imagine ending the season with like your best performance is probably something that's in the heads of the coaches and the GM going into the beginning of the next year. All right.
Dave Wallencheck, what's up, buddy? Thank you for joining us, man. Let's go. We got to move along to defense.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So, defense. Our defensive line: Myles Garrett,
Love it.
Shelby
Love
Harris,
Love
Maurice
it.
Hurst,
Love it.
Quentin Jefferson,
Love it.
Isaiah McGuire,
Love it.
Aquo, Sedarius
Love it.
Smith, Dalvin
Love it.
Tomlinson, and Alex
Let's
Wright.
go. Yes.
That is our defensive line.
Okay.
That's
so
solid.
and how many did they end up going with? Did they end up going with 10?
Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4,
10.
5, 6,
10.
7, 8, 9.
9? Oh, sorry.
They went with only 9?
9, yes.
Okay. So we had split. We had 5 defensive ends. We had Garrett Smith, Obo Okoronkwo, Alex Wright, and then we had Isaiah McGuire battling Sam Kamara for the last spot. So it ended up being McGuire, obviously, right? And then for the defensive tackles, we had Harris, Dalvin Tomlinson, Mike Hall, Quentin Jefferson, and we had Siaki Ika battling Mo Hurst. Now Mo Hurst made it in. The very interesting is Mike Hall is currently on the commissioner's exempt list, so he doesn't have to be on the 53. So because there's an ongoing criminal investigation on him to figure out like whether there's going to be any punishment based on this previous domestic violence charge, we've already covered how the fiance recanted her statement, so that changes the case. But his hearing isn't till I think around September 10th.
Yep.
So they will probably keep him on the commissioner's exempt list until that is
Settled.
finalized. And at that time, they'll have to make a decision. Let's say he's suspended 3 games, then you have to deal with that. Let's say he's not suspended at all, then you have to bring him back on your active roster and someone else will have to go. The reason that's always, it's not ideal that he was in some trouble and he's on the exempt list. The reason it's kind of okay for them to have them on that list now is by the time that comes around, you just don't know what your roster looks like. One of your guys could have broken his ankle and be out anyway, and then you just slide him in, or you may have to make a cut. But that is the one I would say we didn't really miss that one. We just had them keeping 10 guys, and one of them was Mike Hall, and currently they have 9.
And it could
but
be
I
Mike
still
Hall.
think it might eventually go to 10 when Mike Hall comes back, or they may have to cut someone.
Paul Moyer
agree.
says we can't believe we kept Myles Garrett.
He's out of here with that.
We're getting
Who's that?
trolled. We're getting trolled right now.
Can't believe Myles Garrett's on this roster.
You got to be kidding me, Myles. Man.
We had so many more Mileses.
Yes,
Yes.
we need 9 more.
So we did pretty good on that one, but we got one technically semi-wrong because nobody was foreseeing that we would have somebody on the commissioner's exempt list. And it's a bummer that we do, but at least
a
that list
Cleveland thing.
exists.
Mhm.
Yeah, we always have to have one,
Yeah.
at least one guy in trouble to start
Always.
each season.
That's average.
Let's
All
move
right, so
on
we did
to
pretty good there.
linebackers. Devin Bush, Mohamed Diabate, and Tony Fields II.
The second.
I am cool with that list. I am so glad we got rid of Tony Brown. Oh, man. I am so glad. I'm glad he's gone. Bye-bye. Sorry,
So we
boys.
ended up with 6?
Yeah. No, he forgot Jordan Hicks, JOK, and Nathaniel Watson.
Oh,
So, and that's the rookie. That's the
Yeah.
rookie. So we ended up with 6, and we got all 6 of that. And actually,
sorry,
I didn't
was
even
gonna
add
get
a
to
bubble
that.
person. Positional breakdown episodes. It's because the 6 guys they kept are more solid than the guys they had last year. Less injury concern, and also more guys who have been in the system from last year, plus a rookie who actually I
Might
think
be
earned a spot in
good.
preseason. People were pretty happy with him in training camp, especially. And so so we nailed that one. 6 for 6 too.
Dang. Move on.
It's a great room. JOK and
Round of
Jordan Hicks
applause.
will be out there the most. Fields,
Yeah.
Bush, Diabate, and Watson will all kind of like battle for who comes in on 3 linebacker downs or whatever. But some of those guys also are going to be really useful special teamers. So
Cornerbacks. The train isn't going in the background, so we're not talking about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
James Frank says diabetes. No, it's
Diabetes.
diabetes. It's not diabetes.
Devontae.
Cornerbacks, we got Martin Emerson Jr., Khalif Halassi, Miles Harden, Cameron Mitchell, Greg Newsome II, and Denzel Ward. I want to go with Denzel Ward first. I want to touch base with something. Obviously, you got issues, unfortunately. The concussion, that's his 5th. CTE is a real thing in this league, and plenty of players have dealt with it. It's a serious issue, and he's still young, and he's a phenomenal player. I don't know how much you know about CTE, Chad. I did some research the other day on it, but could this be possibly his last year? Could it not be? Could he? I mean, he's ready to go. He's gearing up to play.
Yeah, there's no way to know for sure. I mean, I got into it a bit with some people on Twitter and Instagram a little bit because so many people were just calling for him to retire. And one person I specifically got in a long conversation with was saying that the league should step in on these guys and force them to retire. I don't know what you guys know about United States labor laws, but this is a job, and you can't just make somebody quit because they have an injury. That's sort of it. There's sort of protections for that exact thing. So basically, I said, this is a job for him, a task for him, his family, and his medical staff to decide, is this okay? And then can you come back? And he's come out and said, I understand the issues. I've done a lot of research. I've talked to my doctor. We're working on all the things that are supposed to help you recover as well as possible from these. But I'm with you. Here's my take basically is, yeah, he will probably suffer for these someday, but he loves the game. He doesn't want to leave it. We have all these Browns fans begging for somebody that loves the game. And then we got a guy who's like, I don't care what injury I have. I'm coming out here for playing for the Browns. And then a pile of Browns fans complaining that he should quit. And I just think that's his decision. And I do think you're right, though, Michael. I do think he will pay the price for this someday. But I just think, you could tell a cop, like, hey, you shouldn't be in this job anymore. You got shot. And like, yeah, you survived it, but the next time could kill you. But you can't make him not go out there again if that's his life. You can't just say, well, his wife can, sure, his husband can't, his or her husband can, a family can, whatever. But if you're capable of going back out there and that's what you want to do, then you just do it. Not to mention when you're making in the teens of millions per year, it's just hard to turn that down.
Yeah.
So I would be shocked if he doesn't play out the rest of his contract, but the future injuries will tell a bigger picture.
As much as a fan sport as this sport we call football is, I don't want to see anybody suffer. They all got families to go home to as well. It's kind of bogus that it happens, but if you could, buddy, just stop leading with your head, please, and we'd be in good shape.
The issue is too if he falls back because he's gotten so many. Now he's more susceptible to getting them, even if just simply falling on his head correctly. So that's something that he needs to definitely watch out for.
Here's the thing too, though. A lot of people don't realize how prevalent concussions actually have been. I don't think Gronk is kidding when he says he thinks he probably had when he played the game. Like, I had probably 2 in high school, and I was a teenager still. So yeah, it's an issue. It's always happened. It's just now we know more about what the long-term effects are about it. But that doesn't mean that these young guys in their 20s, we've all been in our 20s. We don't do what people tell us are the safest. We drink too much. We make poor decisions. We constantly put ourselves at risk.
Chad. I don't drink too much.
And so it is hard when you're that age for somebody to tell you, like, don't do this anymore, So,
move on.
But
we're going to move pretty much healthy. We all know Angel's favorite guy is Martin Emerson.
Emerson.
Yep.
Emerson for all day. Emerson. Yes.
I like to see Miles Harden on there. That's kind of cool.
Yes.
Again, side note, Greg Newsome off PUP. No, that does not mean he'll necessarily be ready for week 1, but they obviously think he'll be ready sometime in September. and they didn't want him to have to automatically miss 4 games. So that's a good sign if they think he's closer to being back.
Harden,
Right.
step up. Time for Miles Harden to step up.
Yeah, and Cam Mitchell apparently did a really, really good job in
Yeah.
the slot. If Denzel makes it back to start the season, they'll be just fine. The other
Yep.
2 guys they kept were on our bubble list, and they were actually 2 of the top guys on our bubble list, and they can both play special teams, and they can both fill in at inside or outside, and so that's a good room.
Yeah.
We had to actually release some talent out of
Yeah.
One of the best in the league.
that.
Yeah.
So I'll take
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Defense is nice.
Yes.
Yeah, Hardy, who they cut, was a guy that I think could have made
Yeah.
this team.
And that hurt the most, but understandably
That
so.
did.
You
That
can't
was a
keep
bummer.
everyone.
And I think he's in the concussion protocol. I think he got hurt this last game.
Yep.
So again, that's a guy who might not get picked up, and you slide him on your own practice squad and go.
Oh.
Safeties. We got D'Anthony Bell, Grant Delpit, Ronnie Hickman, Rodney McLeod Jr., and Juan Thornhill. I think this is Rodney McLeod Jr.'s last year. He's retiring after this year as a Brown.
13 seasons at this point in his career, and he's already said he's going to be done. But he's a vet, and he's good for the room. Juan and Grant are going to start the season, and Juan has already came out and said he thought he had a pretty disappointing year last year, and he's looking to build on that. And I think getting D'Anthony Bell back off of PUP and, the Ohio State's own Ronnie Hickman back in the room, those were the 5 guys
Yes.
we had predicted, and I think that was another very easy room. And a lot of these predictions, when I say it's not that impressive a day or 2 ago, if you had predicted this, what I think was fun for us, because there isn't a lot of roster surprises, these are the rooms we put together when we were doing this off-season show, like after the draft.
Yeah.
It's just, I've never seen a Browns team that was so predictable in a good way, because they brought so many actually good players back that you were like, there's almost no way without an injury these guys won't make the roster. And that's exactly how it played out. And that's exactly why they didn't get a crazy amount of preseason play, because they're like, we know these guys are good. We brought them all back for a reason. They're under long-term contracts. We don't need to see them play to make the team. We just need them to be ready for game day. And that is, as frustrating as it is for Browns fans during preseason, that's the reason I knew the whole time this preseason was going to be awful. And we've talked about it over and over. It was so boring and so awful, because like, they didn't need it to be big this year. That's a good thing.
Definitely a good thing for a team that was struggling about 4, 5, 6 years ago. So you have transformed your roster to where you're letting go of good players that, if outside of Hardy's concussion, like he probably would have made a team. So I mean, this is very good that you see people in the comment section saying, "Why didn't we keep him?" You're like, "Well, because we have 10 other players that are better than him, so we can't keep them all."
Yeah, this is the year that we dropped some players who will probably play on another team and could actually even do something. Most years, we're so sad about losing this camp all-star or this preseason MVP, and then they don't even ever make another team, and we never hear of them for the rest of time.
Never.
It happens.
And that's just not the
the
case
NFL.
this year. Those guys got cut.
It's the NFL. It happens. Unfortunately, you fall in love with these people too, because they make good plays. You watch it, as Chad likes to say, it's your typical Cleveland fan. You see these guys make great plays on the field, and then like Brady Breeze, for
Cleveland
example.
is the most invested, emotional, and also for that reason dramatic fan base probably in the NFL. And it's
Yes.
because they're so emotional and they're so dramatic, mostly because they're so invested in
Passionate.
this team, to the point of like losing logic, because you are
Passionate.
like really connected. So I bag on them all the time, but it is mostly
Yes.
based.
Yeah.
Most people on other teams don't care about these cuts because they weren't paying attention to those players anyway. They don't even know when the final there's nobody on the final roster whose name we have not mentioned on this podcast in the last 2 months. We've talked about everybody. And so I've talked to people that are fans of other teams where their roster comes out and they don't know like 10 guys that made the team.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's never happened. I know the first 20 guys they cut.
Yeah.
Like the best 20 people they cut, I'm like, oh, probably I've heard of them because we talked about them.
Yeah.
And we followed him.
We have.
Okay, we did it. The whole roster and the 3 special teamers are exactly who everybody
Obviously.
knew they would be the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes. A friend of the show, Charlie Hewlett. That guy
Yes.
is amazing. Fun to talk to. I'm gonna get him back, dude. He was awesome.
He was awesome. Yeah, I hope we do get a chance to talk to him.
Tell him that he made the team because of our show.
Oh, believe me, when I go to that Dallas
I'm
game,
glad
in
we
2
were able
weeks,
to push you.
yeah. When I go to that
Meanwhile,
Dallas
he's on our
game-
show talking about basically like, I just don't know when I'll hang it up, but like it's on my own terms,
Yeah.
basically.
James said emo's not dead. It's dead, James. Sorry, buddy. It's dead. Preseason game.
Oh, emo's not because I was talking about the emotional Browns fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Emo is Cleveland is the most emo city ever. Here's
Yeah.
always my take on Cleveland on like, and of course when you're on social media, that's not like always the best view of Cleveland because a lot of people spending their time posting are either looking for headlines like we might be, like we're trying to get stuff out there for engagement, or just somebody who has a very dramatic opinion. So that's who you're seeing. But it is like, we have all these quarterbacks and they're all so good. Who will make the team? Doesn't matter because Deshaun will blow it and we'll win 6 games and we're gonna suck. It's like, oh my gosh, dude.
See?
And then there's the people on the other side that are like, if we put DT out there, he'd win 11 games and take us to the playoffs. Like people are so on both sides of the emotional spectrum, and they get their like views so far apart that like it's bound to come crashing at some point.
Really quick,
So,
James Frank just said it.
sure.
Charlie Cool.
Yeah.
The guy's been
Charlie
a
Cool.
Cleveland Brown for 10 years. I'm gonna chant that.
dude,
Me
one of the coolest
too.
guys to talk to.
Yeah, he was cool. Look back.
Preseason game. Let's get into it, guys. It's finally over. Chad's happy. What is up, Adam? Thanks for joining the show. Chad is super excited that the preseason's finally over.
Actually, I think most of Browns fans are excited that this preseason season is over because there was no drama.
So little. We knew we were
Yeah.
going to see so little.
No.
I would say this though, that I didn't.
Oh wait,
I was
Mike's-
in Seattle, and not only did I not go to the
you're
game.
not allowed to comment on the preseason. I'm sorry. You know,
Yeah,
you completely nullified your preseason talk.
No. Well, yeah. I mean, I can continue to say why preseason sucks, but what's really funny is to me is like I went to Seattle. This is how much I don't like preseason. I didn't even go to the game. It was in Seattle. I was coincidentally in the same city, but that game for fans that have been waiting to see anything in preseason, they finally saw some actual touchdowns and things. And again, most of it didn't matter. Most of those guys are cut. We'll find out if Mike Woods comes back. He was kind of one of those guys who actually showed up enough in the preseason that fans got excited, even though like he was a long shot. The room's just too good. But we already mentioned it. I do hope, he makes it back to the practice squad because he does look like he's somebody who, had he not been injured for most of his career, could contribute. But guys like Mike have to be excited about seeing maybe 3 games in a row where Jamari Thrash did something that made him look like that is the one guy in preseason who we knew was going to make the team, but we wanted to see, like, does he have anything? And he is the one guy that looks like, he belongs on the field with actual NFL players because of how well he played in multiple preseason games.
That was my guy. I called it after the draft. I had this feeling, this overwhelming Jamari Thrash is going to be a monster in this league. And their schedule last year at Louisville was pretty tough. It wasn't a cake schedule. You got to take that in consideration when you look back and you watch the guy's highlights and you see him making these amazing catches and yak yards. It's all beneficial to us in the end. Yeah. And I watched his highlights. I've read it all up about this kid, and I just had these, as Chad likes to say, high hopes as a Cleveland fan.
Yeah, huge hope.
I
don't have as high of hopes. I don't expect him to ever be like a star in the league, but I would say for you, since you have such high hopes for him, preseason probably felt pretty vindicating because he did not let down. He wasn't maybe going up against the best competition, but he also didn't have the best possible quarterbacking and like line. There was no run game. and he still went out there and did something. So like somebody like you and a lot of other people that were very excited about the Browns drafting him are probably feeling pretty good today that he made the team, because it looks like he will stick around longer than some other guys in that receiving room. It's a tough room. Like, we've got Moore is on a 1-year deal. Cooper's only on a 1-year deal. Bell is on the last year, I think, of his deal. Is this his third or fourth year?
Third.
Maybe it's only a third. But it's only Thrash's first. So it's like in 2 years, now 1 year, 2 of those guys are off contract. In 2 years, another guy's off contract. Thrash looks like the type of guy you can continue to develop the way they've been doing David Bell. Only I think Thrash, to use a term that Barry always used, Thrash has traits that even like David Bell doesn't have. We talked about how he's more of like a steady, reliable receiver. Thrash has open field ability and speed that gives him something that you can't really coach. So what they can coach is route running, his offensive awareness. If he continues to improve on those things, some of the traits he has physically can make him a player more explosive, the way that like Elijah Moore is, where it's like, well, he hasn't blown the world away so far, but when he gets an opportunity, he can do some things that other guys can't. He has like what the Ravens typically look for in their receivers. Like, maybe they're not superstar like number ones, but they have an ability to run. So
fast too. Run fast. So
they're fast and they're great in the open field. Yeah.
So against Seattle, he averaged 18.3 yards per reception. If you can get that out of him whenever he's on the field, that's a win, because he'll be your third, fourth, maybe fifth option.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that highlights his depth of target is just farther, or he's really good after the catch. So like 18 yards, for those that don't know, 18 yards per reception is incredible. Over 12 yards per reception is pretty darn good in the NFL.
I mean, I think if anything, that is what made me excited about him as he was progressing these 3 games over this preseason. I felt if we look back, each opportunity he got his yards per game increase. So you see that they saw something in him. So they kind of was like, we need to get this guy the ball, let him mature. Yeah. And it's good that you have these old vets. Maybe he needs another year to kind of, just in the crock pot for a little bit, just simmer.
Yeah, he may not play a lot this year, but he definitely looks like he could contribute. And the big thing is, I'm not necessarily a see it to believe it guy, but I'm also not, like, you guys know, like a romantic hopeful. But I would say, compared to, like, we've been drafting other guys who haven't worked out. With David Bell, Anthony Schwartz so far, Tillman, people are excited about him because of his physical traits again. But like, Thrash has done more in this first preseason game than any of them did in their first preseason.
First Brown. 3 games.
He shows more. Yeah. So it's not just promise for the first time where it's like, well, he's got these traits, like, and you've seen him like break a huge tackle. You've seen him, run after the catch. You've seen him getting open. You've seen him catch it in the end zone. That catch all the way down the field was a monster NFL play. And it's against, again, guys who are probably going to be, for lack of, I don't remember who said it. I saw it on X earlier today. He's like, don't get super excited about a lot of these preseason guys because they catch a touchdown pass or because they get a lot of yards, because they're playing against guys who will be realtors in 2 weeks. And I thought that's so funny. Because people do like the bagging groceries, but like, this is a reality. Some of these guys are going to be like,
but the counter to that is, if they don't perform, then you're like, well, he's a bum.
You're worried.
So you have to find the balance, right? Like, he did good for his opportunity, even if he was going against realtors. Right.
And that's
encouraging.
Yeah. For like, we let Mike talk the least about him, but it's because you've had all good things to say about him. So like,
I think you can put this guy anywhere on the field. You could have him as a slot guy, even.
That's a good point.
He could make things happen, and that's crucial. It's so crucial, man. He's like how do I want to explain this? The
You
guy
think he
think
can become an Elijah Moore?
better. I think he could be
That's the
better than
play-
Elijah
so that's
Moore.
the player I see him as, and the reason I think for me it's a good thing if
Yeah.
because I also think Elijah Moore is way better than Elijah Moore. I just think whenever Elijah Moore has the opportunity, he looks great, but for some reason, even though he tends to get open, he just doesn't get featured that much. But I think if Elijah Moore has the opportunity, he can be much better than he has been. And I do see Thrash as his type of player. Maybe he's not a X receiver, or even it would be shocking to me if he's a number one, because I just don't know if he's got that full level. But he does look like he has the type of skill set where he can be a slot or a flanker receiver and really make something happen if he gets the ball. His big problem in the past was drops, and he only had one kind of controversial, well-defended drop in preseason. If drops don't end up being a problem, I could see him as a player that teams missed on, and they kind of over worried about his drops the way that some other guys in the past have. And I mean, I remember talking about Jamar Chase, and he had a terrible droppy preseason. People kind of freaked out, and then real football came, and he's completely fine. So I'm not saying he's Jamar Chase, obviously, but I do see Elijah Moore put up 650 yards last year. I think looking at Thrash now, I would never count on it, but that wouldn't surprise me if that's in his future next year or whenever he really gets an opportunity.
Let's move along. Chad said, we put in the notes here that I was mad that Deshaun Watson did not play.
Yeah, you were
And,
upset.
You had one of the Cleveland emotional roller
So
coasters.
listen,
You were
I know,
passionate.
that wasn't a roller coaster. That was a complete breakdown.
Yeah,
So
he was
Saturday,
passionate. I call it passion.
we
You
were
passionate.
talking.
I wanted to make sure we talked about it. I don't know what happened, but I feel like we all talked about how Deshaun might play this game. Now they're talking about the shoulder soreness and Stefanski.
Soon as Mary Kay
not
did that
play.
report, as soon as Mary Kay did that report, I told y'all he wasn't playing. And Mike was like, he better play. I'm like, he's not playing.
Yeah.
So listen.
And then he didn't play, and Mike was like, "What the heck? Why isn't he out
So
there?"
for 15 minutes, us three argued, and I was invalid, obviously. So I went outside. I had a beer. I did some stuff around the house, and I'm sitting there thinking about it. And I'm like, you know what?
Chop down a tree.
No, yeah. He's not the only quarterback. There's 10 other quarterbacks. Angel, you brought that up.
Yeah.
He is one of 10 quarterbacks that did not play a preseason down. And I thought about it. You know what? Do you really want this guy that just came out of a shoulder surgery, getting hit on his blind side with
Yeah, and that was the big thing for me. If I'm being honest, I don't think it had anything to do with his shoulder soreness. I think
I don't either.
That
It was the left
something
tackle
to throw
deal.
out there early. To me, that's something you throw out there early where it's well, his shoulder sore, plus they don't have the left tackles can't suit up. I thought it was just the more reasons we have that this is a bad idea, the more people will be okay with it. But I do think it had more to do with the left tackle, and more to do with, okay, we decided we're not going to play Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, Cooper, Njoku. And then they're like, okay, well, if he doesn't have any of his receivers to throw to anyway, how does it really help him to go out in the muck and play against some, again, Seattle defender who might be dying to make the team or become a starter and just wants to lay Deshaun out on national TV and be like, my
I'm
moment.
that guy.
And I just,
You want to know what? Though?
and I just, again,
Listen.
it would be different if everybody else was going to play. If Conklin was trying the left side and they're like, we want to see if he can hold up, or Cooper was going to be out there. But I just don't see how Deshaun gets better with that one series or whatever Jameis was out there for with those guys. It's just not, it was not impactful to me at all. And I had accepted days earlier, I'm with Angel. They're starting to throw out stuff that makes you think he's probably not going out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt this. We came into this preseason as the underdogs. Our offensive line came back, and I want to Hulk Hogan rip this shirt off right now because we are not the underdogs. We got our offensive line back. So the quarterback train's here.
Yes.
Deshaun
just gonna say,
Watson is going to be elite this year. I'm going to call it right now. This is going to be his comeback year. Everybody's saying, is he going to be the comeback player of the year? This is it. It's our time to shine. Peanut
breakout,
butter.
Everybody.
It's going to be his breakout season.
Chad's
Hey, look
favorite
who came
word.
to join the podcast.
Hybrid and peanut butter. That's how
peanut
Chad's
butter.
dog, peanut butter.
I'm Mr. Peanut Butter, and I love the Browns. That's the one I picture
look, he's got
this
a
little
beard.
pup having. Yeah,
He's got a-
beard too.
he's
His
got the
beard is
beard.
bigger than Chad's.
You need to put him on a up higher. Adam is asking, any chance they pick up another? We talked about this, Adam, but we'll approach it again. Any chance to pick up another running back off waivers, or are they just running with Ford and Strong? He must have came in the show late because he's asking a question. We answered
There's
earlier.
no way. None of us believe they're going in with just Ford and Strong. I think we had talked about earlier. The most likely scenario seems like they're going to try to make some roster adjustment and get Deontay Foreman to come back and sign with them because he does not have to go through waivers anymore. Veterans after 4 years don't have to be in waivers, so nobody can scoop him up. Teams can call him because he's been cut, but he may have already made a deal with the Browns. And by the way, this was kind of a fun thing that was brought up by, I think, Pete Smith or somebody. I can't remember exactly. I shouldn't even bring a name because I don't remember who. But somebody was saying agents like working with the Browns because they're transparent. They tell you how it is. They pay their guys. You know, we've had receivers sitting out the whole offseason. They got Cooper figured out in a couple of days and back for the entire training camp. They work well with players. They work well with agents, and that's why they can do some of the things that they do because they have kind of these relationships. So the most obvious thing would be that they have some plan to bring Foreman back once they clear one more roster spot, maybe by trading a quarterback or something of that sort. The other thought would be they have something else in mind. Maybe one of these deals they're working on includes a running back, but there's no way with those two guys. I know Nick is coming back, but you start the season, Ford sprains his ankle, and you just go in with Pierre Strong for the
That'd be
next week.
rough.
That's never going to happen.
That would be rough.
Not on Andrew Barry's
Hey,
team.
just
There's
so we're
no
all on
way.
the same page, really quick to interrupt. Adam said he's sorry. He went out for tacos and he jumped on late. He will never let it happen again until next time. And then
I mean, it
James
is
said
Tuesday.
he hopes the tacos were good.
It is Tuesday, so
It is Taco
it's
Tuesday.
perfectly fine.
You guys want
And
to
he
take a
brought
quick
us-
break?
Fine.
Quick break?
Brought us
I mean,
tacos.
it's a big show. Take a quick break, and then we could come back and talk about the quarterback play since we have 4 of
I
them.
was just going to say, is it a big show or did we cover everything?
This is the really big show.
I do want to, yeah, it's the really, really big show. We're kicking off the season, Chad. Quick break, and then we can come right back. You guys cool with that?
Yeah, I'm cool.
Sure.
with it.
Awesome. We'll be right back.
Music down.
And we're back, and peanut butter's here as well.
Still there. He's just chilling.
So
Send me
yeah,
a peanut butter.
there's some quarterback talk. Reckless speculation, as you will.
Reckless.
If you will.
But is it
There
really
was-
reckless? if
Well,
there's
it was
4
because there were
quarterbacks?
so many trade rumors throughout the past week and a half.
True.
So we're going to touch base with that. We all know that there's 4 quarterbacks on the squad as of right now. That could change at any moment. And I'm not against that. Trade value is held up by somebody that could possibly. So hold on. Have you guys ever honestly seen Tyler Huntley's face?
They call him Snoop, and I'm trying to figure out why. Is that
Because
why?
he looks like a bad
Like
mofo, dude. He looks
Oh.
pissed off like constantly.
all the time.
Oh, dude, he took his helmet off at the end of the game and just was like, he looks like 50 Cent to me if I would have had to put anything, a name to a face.
I mean, he only had 146 yards, so he probably wasn't happy.
But in a quarter and a half.
Yeah, undrafted dude, man. He's got to be
Yeah.
pretty happy with how far he's made it.
Yeah, he's
Undrafted
probably-
quarterbacks don't usually make it
Make
to
it
their
that
whatever,
far.
fifth season into the NFL.
or make a Pro Bowl.
Angel brought up a good point.
Which-
While they were playing, like, are they showcasing these quarterbacks that we could possibly get rid of? And
Yeah, I think they played the end of that game and they let those guys open up the passing game.
Yeah,
And I can't help but wonder if it's because they wanted people to see the two of them. There's a lot of trade rumors right now about Jameis Winston. I just want to say phrasing is important in this because I keep seeing these reports from like Mary Kay, who we talked about has usually pretty fair inside information when she's actually reporting rather than like doing a show where she's just talking. When she's actually reporting something, she's right a lot. And separating from when she's on her podcast and she's like, I think the Browns want to do this.
yeah.
I've always had a problem with that because I think she's saying, I
I
think
think.
the Browns should want to do this, right? Instead of like, people take it as like, she must know something. And I think sometimes she's speaking more from like, of course they want to do this. But in this case, whenever I've seen her reports recently of like these trade talks, I'm seeing the Browns are taking calls on, and I just might translate that different. I'm taking that as people are calling on this and the Browns are hearing what they have to offer. I always just think as any organization, besides like a player like Patrick Mahomes, who's like the Myles Garrett, who's the foundation of your defense, besides these couple like untouchable players, if you're not taking calls on your backups, like what the heck are you doing out there as a GM?
Yeah.
If somebody calls and said, I mean, we gave Josh Dobbs up for what, like a 5th or 6th last year?
Yeah.
If somebody calls and
Six.
says like,
Yeah.
hey, are you keeping 2 quarterbacks? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, which ones? And you're like, well, Dobbs is pretty good and DTR. And they're like, what if we give you like a 6th for Dobbs? Maybe you think,
So-
oh my gosh, we were seriously just going to cut him tomorrow.
Yeah,
our
weird.
whole
Yeah.
chat right now is talking about tacos, so we're gonna change that.
You're on a delay.
Hey,
Adam
let him
saying,
talk tacos, man.
Adam said, Winston to Minnesota since you can't trust Sam Darnold to last a full season.
Here's the thing. Here's what I would say is, what are you going to take? So Winston is a very legit veteran backup.
Yeah.
What would it take you to give him up? Because I know the fans love DTR and the fans like Huntley. The Browns brought in Winston for a very specific person, and it was to do what Joe Flacco did last year.
Yep.
I don't believe for a contender, like I could see the long term. I could see Huntley being a potential fill in here and there. I could see the long term people seeing in DTR. But if the Browns are on their way to a Super Bowl and they have 9 wins and there's 3 games left and Deshaun sprains his ankle and high ankle sprain, if you traded Jameis Winston, you're going to feel like an idiot in December because you need to maybe win 1 to 2 of those games to make the playoffs. And you do not want to be rolling out Huntley or DTR in that particular high pressure situation. To me, so I can't imagine you'd want to give up a backup quarterback that good for anything unless you're getting like a good 4th for it. And a team like Minnesota has their future quarterback. They're not going to, they'll just lose this year with Sam Darnold if they have to, like,
Just
I
to
don't
get a
know
higher
that,
pick. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that they're like, they're not going to win it all with Jameis Winston, and they have their next year, their future quarterback. So I think they're probably more likely to just get through this year.
Didn't the Browns trade Dobbs, and wasn't Dobbs at the time their backup quarterback?
He was gonna be, and
Yeah,
DTR
and
was gonna
so
be
DTR
free.
so I
Played so
what
good in
I
preseason. I think they
yeah.
thought,
So that's what makes me kind of like when I think of they won't do that to Jameis, but then I'm thinking, sure, Jameis is better than Dobbs by night and day, sure. But
right.
I'm thinking
Dobbs
like,
had, I think at that time Dobbs had never had an NFL win.
yeah, true. So
So
that's why I'm thinking
Jameis has
like
thrown for
Barry
5,000
seems
yards.
Barry seems to be like, if you give me a good enough pick,
Right.
maybe.
You should
So
always be listening.
yeah. So
James said that's facts, Chad.
what's
Yeah.
that? Yeah, sure.
So yeah,
I got. I mean,
you didn't get to see Jameis Winston much. He had he went 6 for 9 with 63 yards, no touchdowns. But my biggest thing.
by
right
the
now
way,
is-
I was wrong. Dobbs got traded for a 5th. I thought it was a 6th.
Yeah.
Of course, you give up Dobbs, who's probably going to
subpar.
get replaced by DTR for a 5th. Like that's a great
Yeah.
conversation. If they could get that for Huntley, probably yes. I don't think they should take that for DTR because they just used a 5th on him, and he looks like he's better than a 5th. So why would you give him up for a 5th?
Yep.
But Huntley, they picked up for nothing. I could see you spinning that.
Yeah.
Yeah. DTR went 11 for 20 for 115 yards with 1 touchdown. And I want to express this so hard. You got your second and third string offensive line out there protecting these guys that are fighting for a job. These guys are busting their ass out there trying to make passes happen in crucial moments because they're not getting good blocks. They're not. They got so minimal time to get rid of that ball. I would say it's different than any other game. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, Chad, you have to.
Yeah, I mean they're in a bad situation. Like we said, they're playing against second and third and fourth string defenders in these preseason games. And when I say second, even second is they're not. The backups for most of these teams aren't even in there that long anymore, especially in this last game. But and of course, our line depth was nothing this year, so they were in bad situations. But again, what you guys said before, they're in bad situations with protection, playing against these lower ranked defenders. So they still have to execute, and they did it. Now, one thing I'll give our quarterbacks, like the one advantage they had was the receivers out there catching. I think Mike Woods is a pretty decent talent, although he ended up getting cut. I do think he's going to end up on our practice. I can't believe he wouldn't end up on our practice squad. But like Thrash was out there for a while. Thrash looks like he's got some talent. So they had receivers to throw these touchdowns to, but yeah, it just the offense was milquetoast, and the defenders were coming for them, tried to make a play that could get them noticed.
I get that. Tyler Huntley, 17 for 22 for 146 yards with 3 touchdowns. That's a good stat.
It's the stat line that makes your guys' argument. When you guys were like, we liked Huntley more than DTR, it's just the stat line. His numbers look better, but I think people prefer DTR. Maybe because he's their own. Maybe because last year they fell in love with him.
Redrafted him.
Yeah, he was underwhelming to me in the regular season. I would expect him to be better if he were to somehow get in the game this year, which I hope he doesn't. But again, I think you investing a 5th rounder in him and seeing him develop does lead them to maybe think they'll hold on to him. But I think they're foolish if they got offered like a higher pick, like a 3rd or 4th for DTR from somebody and like a 5th for Huntley. That's where I'm like, yeah, Huntley's pretty good too for a third guy. But I think they're looking at I think a lot of people are looking at a potential future long-term backup. And I think you can get that other places, but a lot of people say once you have him in your system, you keep him. And that's where I think a lot of the DTR love comes. Plus, I mean, he didn't have quite the stat line as Huntley, but like he made some big time throws in multiple games that I think people were impressed with. because I think one of the concerns for him was his smallish size and his arm. I think Huntley's a better pure runner, but DTR moves around the pocket well in order to extend a play, kind of the way Baker used to, where he's not a real runner, but he knows how to wiggle around and give himself a time to find somebody open.
I
I don't know.
you, Angel,
Again, the
reading those
reason it's tough
comments.
for me is because they're both just. I mean, give me whichever one
Yeah.
Andrew Berry and Stefanski think can play, and I will just roll with it.
I agree. Sam said 1 Watson, 2 Winston, 3 Huntley, and James Frank said I think DTR has more heart. I'm going to agree to that only because the kid's younger and he's really, really fighting for a job. I think
Huntley was an undrafted free agent who is still like grinding
Playing. Yeah.
to make his second team. So like it's hard to argue with the heart. Like when guys go undrafted, a lot of guys are just like, well, the dream is over. Like I'll never be an NFL player. But he caught on with the Ravens, worked his way to becoming their backup, was their backup for multiple years. He's also gotten into some games, and it's just like it's hard to question his heart when he went from undrafted free agent to playing. And again, he in the offseason, the Ravens decided not to retain him. And he came to the Browns and said, I basically came to the Browns because I like what Stefanski and the Browns offense does with quarterbacks. And whether I stay with this team or not, I want to become a better quarterback. And to me, that shows he also has
heart.
some heart.
Yeah, I do. All right, guys, we hit 100 viewers. We'll save the rest for next week that we got here. I'm going to hit up 30 seconds of fame, though, real quick.
30 seconds of fame for me, it would be this. Don't forget.
I got to ask the question first.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to play this little skit thing here. Hold on.
Mine too.
All right, 30 seconds of fame.
Oh, I like the little
So you guys
intro
ready?
you got there. Yeah.
After the 53-man roster is released,
Oh, man.
what is your guys' schedule prediction for the end of the year? You got 30 seconds starting now, Angel.
10 wins. 10 wins. I had
He
them
went
at
down
11.
one. Oh,
Yeah,
you
went down
hate
one.
this team.
No, I don't hate this team. I'm just unsure about the line team. Yeah, 10, 11 wins. I'll say 10 just to answer your question.
I'm gonna stick to 11.
I'm
sticking
actually
to
going
it.
to go down to 9.
Yeah.
so-
See.
Midweek last week, I went down to 9. I did, and I took it back after I found out our offensive line is possibly back. Sam
Ask me
says
again
11. Adam
when
says
I'm hyped
11.
about the Cowboys. Ask me
Yeah,
again when
after
I'm
the
hyped about the
Cowboys.
Cowboys. I'm mostly thinking like this could switch back in 2 weeks if I start seeing some shots of practice and Jed Wills or Conklin look pretty good on the left side. I would give that if one of those two guys, if not both of them, are ready to play well week 1, I would probably bump us an entire win because that's where they lose me because everything else is exactly how we thought it'd turn out. The roster was almost exactly what we predicted when I said 10 wins. I'm worried that they're not going to be in sync because so many receivers at different times in camp were out. And then my biggest concern is that offensive line.
Hold on. I'm gonna
Not 29, 30.
I'm gonna debunk this here for a second. So our first game, being the toughest, one of the toughest throughout our season, is the Cowboys, right? We got to
You
win
beat
that
the
game.
Cowboys. If you beat the Cowboys, you can go 4-0.
That's a must win. But you
Yeah.
got to think about when Nick Chubb's going to come back as well. So take this in consideration. September 8th, we got Cowboys, Browns. September 15th, Jags. We could beat the Jags.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through these first 6 games. September 22nd, Giants. We could beat the Giants.
Yeah.
Raiders. That's going to be somewhat of a tough game. I think it's going to be like a
Raiders suck, man.
weird game.
Gardner
Raiders-
Minshew.
Mark Minshew, he did well in Indy against us, but you're gonna have a healthy Watson and a better defense.
Yeah, the Commanders. We'll stomp on them.
We'll beat the Denver
gonna-
rookie. It's 4-1.
Then we go
We got
into
4-1.
October 13th. The Eagles.
Oh, ooh.
That's where
4-2.
the schedule starts getting tough again.
I'm saying 4-2.
Well, I'm
games.
yeah.
Wait,
I'll
what's
go
your-
5. He had him losing against Dallas and the
Yeah, and
the
I hate to
NFC
say
East.
specifically Dallas, but I think with that breakdown, because you can always beat Dallas and then lose to a poop team that you should have
Yeah.
beat. But I would
4
say
and
with
2.
that difficulty of that talent, I think we should probably go 4-2.
If you do 4 and 2, that's great. By the way, that's not like
Yeah.
that's
I'm-
great.
I just
Yeah, I'm
remind
not against
myself
4-2.
you don't beat all the teams you're better than, and every once in a while you beat a team that you shouldn't. So given that schedule, I'd say I think it's pretty realistic to go 4-2. And then maybe Nick is still not back, but you've got to think you're halfway through October now. He's coming sooner than later, and you're feeling pretty good about being able to make a late run.
I don't want Nick to come back October 13th.
What?
That's yeah, no, I want Nick to come back, not October 13th, because we're playing that game at Eagles.
Oh yeah, you'll play him at home for sure first.
We had to. We talked
Yeah.
about this a couple weeks or 2 months ago.
Yeah, and by the way, just for all the fans out there, I want to clarify. If Nick Chubb is perfectly ready to go against a team you have to beat like the Eagles, Mike is sitting him out on purpose because he wants him to come out of the tunnel in Cleveland first.
Yes.
So when you lose to a team like the Eagles by 3 and you think, gosh, if we had just had a little more oomph, we could have beat them. Mike is holding
Hold him.
your running back down so that he
Just
can
one more
cheer
week.
for him coming out of the tunnel the next week.
Listen, they
It's
don't,
a it's a
son of a-
safety week. You hold him for safety purposes.
they don't call it Ohio Hold'em for a reason.
Yeah.
Nobody likes Texas, but I'd say bring Nick Chubb in week 7 against Cincinnati at home.
And beat the Bungles.
If he's ready for that week, I will still be surprised, but I think that's at least getting realistic. But we said at the beginning of the season, I said I expect him back closer to like November,
Same.
and you were thinking he was going to come back maybe like 2 weeks earlier.
It's all to be
And it
determined,
could
unfortunately. I don't lose faith in Jerome Ford to be our number
just
one as of right now.
unpredictable.
Yeah, Jerome Ford's good.
I think Jerome Ford's fine. Like I said, he struggled towards the end of the season last year, but I also think everybody kind of did. Your best lineman, kind of who was still like Batonio was starting to get banged up. You had no tackles at the end of the season, and even when you did, Thanos can't run block to save his soul last year. I hope he got much better at that, as this season goes on, which is tough since he missed so much time rehabbing. But he's not a run blocker, at least hadn't been in the past. And then he eventually goes out too, and you're sitting there with like Treader and Pochich and a beat up Batonio and your 5th and 6th string tackle. Like Chubb would have taken contact so early in that context. So Ford gets a mini pass from me.
Listen,
He
guys,
may not be able to catch, but he's good enough to run for this team. And
If
hopefully
not-
we have Foreman back running some carries as well.
if not week 9, home game, Chargers. Let's beat the piss
When do we play the
out of
Steelers the
Harbaugh.
first time?
No, I'm
Hey, when do we
Yes.
play the
worried about
Steelers for the first time?
Let's beat the piss out of Harbaugh. Sign stealing.
Cheater.
That would be nice.
Guys got to watch that Netflix documentary.
Haven't
on,
watched it yet. I want to watch it. Haven't watched it
It's
yet.
called like Untold. I think it was Johnny Manziel's story was on there as well.
Yeah, that was a good one.
This guy, when he breaks down things, is like Chad in a nutshell to me. Chad, you got to watch it. It's the Michigan scandal.
He sounds awesome.
Wait till
He
you see how he
sounds-
broke it down.
He sounds like a hero.
This guy had he had all the stuff that you bring to the show in like vivid detail about how he did it, and
Complaining, over analyzing, numbers.
lots of numbers.
Lots
Lots
of
of what is that program?
I do,
that
like-
Microsoft-
I joke. People joke, and sometimes there's more to football for sure and life than analytics. But that roster, a lot of it came down to what is the average amount of people we keep at each position? Who did we have on the roster last year? How often does Barry keep his draft picks that in their first year from these different rounds? Then you put it all together, and without even looking at the names on the jerseys, you get 51 out of 53 right. It's just because
win-win.
it's out there. The information's out there.
And Angel, your mic sounds amazing.
Yeah, we fixed it. We did a little live show this Saturday. As we fixed the mic, we did a test, and I think it sounds better. I'm
Yes.
comfortable. Hopefully, it comes out on the podcast a lot better. On
Angel and
iTunes,
I, if Chad can join, then he's more than welcome. We're going to start doing a Saturday pregame show, I believe. Just touching
It'll
base
be
with,
hard, but I might be able to.
yeah, just touching base with what happens pregame, obviously. What are,
Which is cool. I think that's a great idea.
yeah,
We talked
What
about
we're-
that earlier in the season, and we didn't know. I thought maybe you guys were going to do it Sunday morning, which I absolutely can't do because our games are at 10 a.m. here, and I have to go set the bar up.
Yeah.
well, here's how this Saturday was a complete accident.
Yes.
Me and
Well,
Angel jumped on
yeah.
to fix his mic issue, and then I was like, "Hey, do you want to go live for like 20 minutes?" And typical bearded Browns fashion, we went
It
live for
lasted
40 minutes.
45 minutes.
That's the problem. That's how you guys are going to have trouble drawing me in because this show is really over at like 5:30 my time,
Yeah.
8:30 your time, but
Yeah.
we're still here.
We're already an hour and a half, hour and 28 minutes and 47 seconds in.
All right. I want to say that they're subconsciously, the reason why people love DTR is because he was crying after the Pittsburgh Steelers victory. That's what they see subconsciously. That's what they love about
Maybe.
DTR, and that's what they mean by hearts.
Yeah, I agree.
Could be.
If
Like I
you didn't
said,
know that,
Cleveland
now
is
you
pretty
do know.
emotionally invested in these guys. And last
Yes.
year in preseason, I just think last year in preseason, he looked so good that people just decided this is my guy. And now
That's it.
it's so hard to turn that off for a lot of people. Even
But
if
they
you're
were
like,
okay
well,
2
his
weeks
numbers look
ago
better.
when he was on the trading block, quote unquote. They were like, "Oh yeah, we can give him up with like a third."
No, see,
And
last
now
year,
they're like, "Let's keep him."
last year
I
he
would
got
give him
thrown
up
out
for
to the
a
Wolves.
third.
He got thrown out
too.
to the Wolves last year. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think he was ready completely. Yes, you can go out there and practice every day with these pros that you're running drills with, but at the end of the day, when you get out there against another team that is planning to just wreck you, that's not going to work out as easy as a lot of people think it's going to.
Yep.
Yeah. With that being said, thank you to everybody that watched tonight. We're going to end the show here, and go and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitter, everything. We're on everything. Angel gets mad about
Yeah,
that,
we're
but
on
we're on
too many
everything.
things, but follow us on all of them.
All of them.
Yes, all of them.
It's
Make sure
pretty
you
much Bearded Browns or Bearded Browns podcast, and you're gonna find us.
yes, before you go to bed tonight, do that. That's got to be on everybody's bucket list to follow us, especially
And
YouTube.
especially
because,
do it on YouTube.
yes,
Yeah, let us
Turn this
hook
off. Go watch it on
Yes.
YouTube, and then bookmark us and like us on YouTube.
like,
subscribe.
subscribe, ding it, and then we'll be
Tell
happy.
all your friends,
Yes.
every friend you have. Tell your friends from other teams so they can come out on here and we can poke at them about the season. If you have some Browns, some Bengals fans or some Steelers fans, friends, yeah, get them involved.
interdivision
My
drama. I
Twitter
love it.
time feed, but
Yes,
for the live show,
that would be fun.
Bring them on. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Like I said, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, share, and we will see you guys next week. There's going to be some changes, I'm sure. So we will have some more news next week. And if not, like I said, follow us on all our social media and you'll see the news as it comes out. But other than that, we talk about it on the show pretty religiously. If you can't tell. But yeah, thank you guys again. And we will see you all